Do you ever look back at yourself from 5 years ago and go, God, I was such an idiot? Well, I felt like that quite a lot of times in my life. And so I decided to make this video for me 5 years ago. Now, I've been through the medical education system and now I'm working in the field, and I'd like to share some of the important career and money lessons that I wish I knew earlier when I was a medical student or even a junior doctor in my early 20s. Even if you're not in the medical field, I think this could be applicable to a lot of different young adults starting off fresh in their brand new careers. Number 1, go at your own pace. Everyone is on different timelines. It's hard to know this when your head is so far down into the rat race. When you're a medical student or a junior doctor, it can be easy to get caught up in the rat race of trying to stay on top of things and not fall behind your peers, but it's important to go at your own pace and not feel pressured to follow anyone else's timeline. If you need a break, take it. This can mean taking a gap year, studying part-time, or simply taking some time off to recharge your batteries. And I know this sounds so scandalous because I remember when I was in uni, the general ethos of when someone would take a gap year would be like, oh, that person's just lazy or they're a dropkick or whatever. But that attitude is so harmful because this game we're playing of trying to work hard and be successful in our careers is a long-term game. It's a marathon. We're trying to slowly and consistently do our work. And so if you feel that signal in your mind or your body that you feel tired and you need a break, ignoring it isn't what a smart person would do. That's actually going to harm you later on, because then that's going to lead to you to burn out, and then you'll have to take even more time off, and then you'll even quit the entire field that you've dedicated so much time and effort to. Looking back now, I should have just taken off 6 months after I finished med school, or even a whole gap year, and just done things I enjoyed, gotten them to a place that I was happy with. Because after medical school, my final year was just so busy and so much work was required for it that I should have just taken a break to just calm down and relax and then come back to it with a full cup. My advice to anyone who is like, oh, I can't do that, then I'll be behind, and what will my parents say? What will my friends say? Take it from someone who quit midway through his residency that all those things don't really matter. A few months after, you barely even think about the people that you were so concerned about that you needed to do these things because otherwise they would say things. 6 months later, you don't even remember those people on a day-to-day basis. Sure, your family and friends, like your very close friends, those opinions might matter, but I think you'll be surprised how understanding some people can be if you take the time to actually carefully think through your decisions and express that to them. Now, if you have a hard time doing that, I would say write it all out, edit it like you would an essay, and then just go through that, explaining it to your family or your friends, whoever you need to explain it to. Another point on this is that full-time work takes an adjustment period. So I worked during uni, but only in like part-time tutoring sort of ways. So I would have total control of how many hours I worked, what hours I would work, where I would work. Full-time work takes all of that autonomy away from you, and that takes an adjustment. And I think it's easy to sort of brush off those people and be like, oh, you're just spoiled, you never worked a full day in your life, you don't know, you know, everyone works like this. Sure, but not everyone works like that. There are many jobs that's not how it is. Even my job right now as a locum doctor, I have a lot of autonomy in where I work, how many hours I work. I decide my hours basically, but as a junior doctor, you don't really have that. And so going from being almost fully autonomous as a student and having that for, 12 years of your schooling life to 6 to 7 years of medical school, being pretty autonomous, now going to a full-time work role where you don't really get to decide your hours, you don't get to decide too many things, but there's a lot less autonomy. So the main reason I'm saying this is because I think you should be kinder to yourself when you're going through that adjustment period. For me, I was really harsh on myself. I said, this is just the standard, and if I'm not doing it, I'm lazy. And that was crap because it made me feel shit about myself when I was working, because I'd work pretty hard and then I'd come home and be like, I've done nothing all day and I need to work now on YouTube or whatever it is. So I would say be kind to yourself in those months that you're still going through that adjustment period. Don't try and take on too many different roles and just focus on the one job that you have at work, because even though it doesn't feel like you're doing much, it actually is, because there's a mental toll in the adjustment period. Number 2, information is powerful. Knowing about career paths, requirements, fiscal remuneration rates, which is essentially just how much you get paid, it helps you decide which path you actually want to go down and have a deeper understanding of what you want to do. Message people in your network. That includes people you know, have classes with, have worked with, people you come across, and then give them something in return for the information. So ask if you can get them a meal and discuss your options for your career path. Something we're not really taught in medicine is how to network with people and how important networking is. I think there's this really sort of sleazy and needy way that a lot of people network in medicine. Unfortunately, it's just because we're not really taught how to do it in a way that's beneficial for both parties, but also just doesn't come across as seedy. So I think one great way that I've learned to do it, and I watched some videos by Alex Hormozi, who's this multimillionaire CEO on YouTube. He makes a lot of good videos. You can check them out. But essentially he says, when you want to speak to someone or when you want something from someone, provide them value first and then expect nothing in return. And if they give you value back, awesome. Now, what that can look like in, say, medicine or whatever it is, you know, if you have a professor who's in the field that you want to go into, if you have a doctor that is really senior to you and you want to sort of get some general advice of career or money lessons like this video, you can just simply say something like, hey, Dr. Sam, I've noticed you're really good with your money. I'd love to be better at it as well. I'd love to take you out for lunch sometime so that we can talk more about that. Would you be open to that? If not lunch, then coffee, but something. They're getting something and you're then maybe getting something. It's up to them. But that's the thing, because then it gives them the power to decide, okay, this person has given me some goodwill. Am I going to return it back? And more often than not, people are very willing to. People just want to know that they're not being used. And so when you give someone that goodwill, it makes them feel like, that's nice of them. I'll extend a nice hand back to them. Number 3, work sometimes is just work, and that's okay. I used to think that I would be in love with my work every single day, and it was such a culture shock in my first year working as a junior doctor that was not the case at all. But that's okay. You're in a junior position and the job gets better every year. You gain more experience and become more senior. You're treated a bit better and you also have a little bit more autonomy over your work days. So for example, after you finish your first year out of medical school as a junior doctor, you gain your general registration and you decide you want to locum and have more control over the time you work. That's totally feasible. Me, I did not know that at all going into internship. I didn't know that 1 year after I finish my medical school and work for that entire year, gain registration, that I would be able to just be a locum doctor, which means that I go to different hospitals, they pay me a higher rate and I get to have more flexibility over my work hours. I didn't know that was an option. So having information is really important, and I think the best ways to have information is, yes, your own research, which is just, going on forums, messaging people, whatever, but I think the best way is just talking to people who are just a bit above your level, which is networking. So number 4, have something you're saving towards. Don't just vaguely think I should be saving. Have a tangible goal that means something to you. I was absolutely crap at saving, but I got a lot better once I knew what I was saving for. Because now there was a story and meaning attached to every dollar that I saved. So that the immediate pain I would feel for not buying the takeout or going shopping would be able to be contrasted against the satisfaction of reaching a meaningful goal that I was saving towards. Number 5, don't be afraid of credit cards. If you use them properly and not spend excessively, they can actually be quite beneficial, and you can get access to free travel insurance, frequent flyer points, which offer business class flights for like 200 Australian dollars. And as a medical student and junior doctor, I traveled heaps, so it would have been really useful to save money on a few flights, which is generally my biggest expense in a year. Also, once you're a junior doctor, you can do this thing called salary packaging, which is in New South Wales. Don't know if it works anywhere else, but it's essentially just a way to reduce the amount of tax you pay, and it saves you a fair amount of money. And having a credit card can make this process a lot easier. Number 6, learn about money. If you know nothing, start learning. Doctors are notorious for being bad with money. Every accountant I've met has always been shocked at how bad doctors are with their money. If you're an absolute beginner, the best book I read for beginning in stocks or shares is just The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape. Yes, it's very basic, but that's what you need as a beginner. And I don't agree with everything in that book, and some things just overcomplicate stuff, but it's a good starting place. If you're wanting to learn more about properties, the best beginner book I've read was called 30 Properties by the Age of 30 by Eddie Dillion. Both apply mainly to an Australian crowd and both are quite beginner friendly, but always try and find the most basic book you can form in the topic that you're interested in and then use that as a building block. So I just want to say this isn't financial advice, all that kind of stuff. I'm by no means an expert, and this is still something I'm learning more and more about, but I'm just giving my recommendations to someone who knows nothing about this. For budgeting, there's a good website called Pocketsmith, which logs into all of your bank accounts and then gives you a report of all your incoming and outgoing expenses. I know some banks already do this, but if you have multiple bank accounts, it gets hard to know exactly what is your incoming, outgoing. So Pocketsmith makes it easier, plus the OS is easier to navigate. Don't worry, they're not sponsoring this video. So in conclusion, these are just a few of the career money lessons I wish I had known earlier as a doctor in my 20s. I hope you've learned something useful. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Until then, have a good one.